They're not good enough to start. They're not even good enough to play. But they do talk a good game. So come join Lou and Jose from the sidelines where all the best sports discussions happen anyway. Welcome in to the Benchwarmerz podcast.
Welcome into the program, everybody. I'm Lou Ruggieri. That is Jose Ortiz. And this is the Benchwarmerz podcast. Wherever, however, and really whenever you're listening, we appreciate you taking some time out of your day to come spend it with us. Hopefully we'll make it a little bit entertaining, whether you're laughing with us or at us. We don't care either way. A lot to cover this week. We have our first breaking news, actually, but we'll get to that in a second. A big time hour number 2, a lot of NFL talk. Jose and I are going to give you some quarterback rankings. I know everyone else is doing that, but we're going to do it the right way and tell you exactly who's 1 through, we'll see, well, at least 1 through 10, maybe more. A lot of news on the contract front. Jamal Adams, Dak Prescott, a lot to talk about there. A little later this hour, we're going to tap into some non-NFL stuff. NBA bubble is officially happening. We're getting in, we're going on, and we're actually going to get sports back. So we're going to talk a little about what to expect, what not, what we aren't thinking about, and if it's a good idea or not. Baseball is also back, and we're going to touch on that in a minute. But first, Jose, we have our first official breaking news, and right before we started recording this show, and a little peel back the curtain, we record this typically on Sunday nights, as late as possible for schedule reasons, and to get what would be sports in. Obviously, that hasn't been much of a problem in the last couple months, but right before we went on the air, we found out that Mr. Cam Newton has joined the Patriots on a 1-year deal with an incentive-laden contract with up to $7.5 million in top pay. I'd like your official reaction to that, please.
Wow. That was my first reaction. Just wow. I had heard rumors about it. I wasn't actually expecting it to happen. It seemed to me that the Patriots were going to be just fine going into the season with Jarrett Stidham as their quarterback. I feel like this is a win-win situation. For Cam Newton, he gets a chance to go to a team that's a perennial Super Bowl contender, even though we're going to test that, I guess, this year. But for the last decade plus, it's been a perennial Super Bowl contender, at least to win the division. Then you look at the Patriots, you lose Tom Brady, then you replace him with a former MVP, a guy who has a chip on his shoulder, and a guy who I think at least at this point has to elevate the Patriots. Whatever you thought of the Patriots before now, I think you would have to, unless you don't believe in Cam Newton and being healthy or being effective without having 100% of his athleticism. Yep. I think that Bill Belichick is going to design an offense, or I don't know who the offensive coordinator is in New England. I'm sorry, but they're going to design an offense that fits Cam Newton.
Josh McDaniels is still there.
Oh, yes, that's right. Josh McDaniels. Yes, thank you. Yep. He's going to come in. They're going to design an offense. He's still going to have above-average athleticism at the quarterback position, at least for the quarterback position. I think they're going to try to be kind of like the Diet Ravens light, because I think they want to run the ball and dominate with a strong defense that they have returning. This is all good. I don't see any negative that comes from this. As an immediate upgrade for the Pats quarterback situation, and I think an immediate upgrade to the Patriots playoff and Super Bowl hopes.
So I had a lot of initial impressions. There was a lot of things that flooded my mind immediately when you told me this happened, and I started reading headlines. The first is I kind of feel bad for Jarrett Stidham a little bit, because if I was him, I'd be looking forward. I mean, I guess nobody really wants to replace the GOAT. I mean, you don't replace Howard Stern on radio. I think David Lee Roth tried that when Howard Stern left New York. And actually, I was on that team, by the way. I worked at K-Rock Radio in New York at the end of Howard's career there, and then the beginning of David Lee Roth. And the first show, just to give you an idea of how hard it is to replace an icon. With the first show I heard David Lee Roth do after Howard Stern left, I immediately quit my job and left. I said, I cannot be a part of this. If he's the guy that's leading the charge, I'm not doing this. So I do feel for Jarrett Stidham a little bit. The other thing that came to mind was, I did hear about this, but could you find a more polar opposite quarterback to Tom Brady than Cam Newton? It seems like in just about every facet of on and off the field personality, skill set, Cam Newton and Tom Brady are about as opposing forces as you could get. I mean, Cam Newton's most of his career has been based on his mobility. Tom Brady is basically like he's a statue. And Cam is a big arm, deep ball thrower. Tom has made a career off of the check down Charlie, theory. And then the off the field stuff, Tom Brady is essentially the NFL version of what Derek Jeter was for baseball. Yep. Cam Newton, on the other hand, I mean, he shows up with an Easter bonnet and sunglasses and a scarf on, and it's like
he's the NFL's version of Russell Westbrook. He's the NFL's version of Russell Westbrook.
Westbrook, and with a little Dennis Rodman in there, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, some of that is. I mean, he takes risks that I think are not great, but how that personality, I guess, is what I'm getting at. How that personality that is going to fit in with sort of the Belichickian, everybody shut up and do your job thing. I mean, that right off the bat is going to be fascinating to watch, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I think that at least in the Bill Belichick era, they've done a good job of taking guys who've maybe been a bit humbled, had some humble pie. You look at Randy Moss, Corey Dillon. There's a couple other players who, went down the wrong path, were kind of maybe not even not really wanted by a lot of teams.
Yep.
Bill Belichick comes in, gives them another chance, and all of a sudden they're model citizens. And I would imagine Cam Newton, having missed all of last season, then got cut from the team this year in favor of Teddy Bridgewater, of all people. I think this is a situation where Bill Belichick is trying to maximize his win now window. You look at Jarrett Stidham, he's still going to have his opportunity. Cam Newton is not the future of this team. It's a one-year incentive-laden deal. Bill Belichick is looking in here saying, look, I have a championship-level defense. I think I have a very good running game. If I can get a quarterback who's a veteran, who's experienced in running an offense, to just come in here and not wet the bed, and maybe I can avoid some of these growing pains while I have this 1 or 2 year window where my defense is one of the best in the NFL. I'm going to take that chance, and I think that's what's happening right now. He's just rolling the dice on Cam Newton. If Cam Newton is still great, the Patriots. I mean, if you look at the AFC after the Chiefs and the Ravens, it's pretty wide open. There's not really a clear third team, in my opinion, in that conference. So the Patriots, with this move, if they hit the ceiling, if you get maximum value from the move, right? This is meaning if Cam Newton is still an NFL caliber quarterback, which is still up for it's fair to question, but if he's still an NFL caliber quarterback, you've got a very dangerous Patriots team, I think.
Yeah. And so, I mean, the defense is definitely not going to be the problem. But what I also thought, and there's a few things still, the offense. I mean, Tom Brady, the greatest of all time, had an issue with playing with the skill players on that offense last year. And as far as a pure thrower is concerned, I mean, I don't think that Cam is even in the same stratosphere as Tom Brady is as far as accuracy and just kind of predicting the defensive tendencies. And if you listen to sort of run down the Patriots lineup, so they have James White, Sony Michel, Rex Burkhead, Brandon Bolden at running back, Julian Edelman, Mohamed Sanu, Marquise Lee, N'Keal Harry, Jacoby Myers is still there. We'll see if he stays. And then really they have Matt Lacoste is their kind of new rookie, or not? No, he's not a rookie, but he's kind of their tight end. And then it sort of just trails off from there. But the first thought is how do you feel if you're Julian Edelman? Because for a while there, he was sort of like off. He was the ostracized man on the island, kind of just left on the island while Brady and Gronk took a boat down to Tampa. And I wonder if he's kind of like, I would love to know what went through his head when he saw this first.
Well, if you're Julian Edelman, would you rather have a quarterback who's got 3 career starts, or I don't know how many starts he has, but 4 career pass attempts, or would you rather have Cam Newton throwing the ball to you? So I'm sorry, not 3 career starts for Jarrett Stidham, 4 career passing attempts, or Cam Newton. Give me a chance with Cam Newton, a guy who's an MVP or MVP winner, 3-time Pro Bowler, proven guy. As far as how he compares to Tom Brady, last year Tom Brady threw the ball over 600 times. Mm-hmm. I would be surprised if Cam Newton throws the ball over 400 times. This is going to be I should say over 500 times. Everyone throws 400 times. I would be surprised if he gets into the 500s. This is going to be a run-heavy offense. I think they're going to rely a lot on Cam Newton running the ball, a lot on Damian Harris and Sony Michel running the football, and Rex Burkhead and James White. And if I'm Julian Edelman, Cam Newton was much more accurate throwing passes, in my view anyway. I don't have any stats to back that up, but just in my view, from what I remember, I just feel like from 15 yards in, Cam Newton throws accurate passes. Once you get past there, he's got the arm strength, but not necessarily the touch. And so I completely agree with you, and certainly not the anticipation about where the defense is going to be and where his players are going to be, which is where Tom Brady was winning the mental game. But from the physical standpoint, I would imagine Cam Newton has more arm strength than Tom Brady right now. He's never been as accurate as Tom Brady, and he's never going to be as accurate as Tom Brady, and that's not really a crime. Tom Brady is one of the greatest of all time. But if we're talking about last year's version of Tom Brady, I'm just trying to bring up his numbers. 60.8% completion percentage, 4,000 yards. I know he didn't have the greatest cast of characters throwing the ball, but he still had Julian Edelman. You should get N'Keal Harry healthy finally for the full season, hopefully. And I wouldn't expect much of a drop-off between Tom Brady and Cam Newton.
I mean, the last time we saw Cam play a full season was 2018. He played 14 games. They went 6-8. He completed 320 of 471 passes, which pretty good. I mean, he's almost 68% passing rating, which is, probably largely due in part to Christian McCaffrey being there and a lot of dump-offs. But 3,400 yards, 24 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. In his best year, 2015, his MVP year, Cam Newton, obviously, they went 15-1 that whole year. 296 completions out of 495, basically a 60% completion ratio, 3,800 yards, 35 touchdowns, and still 10 interceptions. He did rush for 600 yards, which should be noted. So that sort of disparity is interesting because, I wonder because clearly he's not as good a passer as Tom. I mean, very few people are.
No one is. Yeah.
But I wonder if, in his best year, Cam Newton ran for 636 yards and an additional 10 touchdowns. So he was responsible for 40 touchdowns. I mean, that's incredible. And so,
if I told you this year that Cam Newton has 3,500 yards passing, 500 yards rushing, and accounts for 35 touchdowns total with say 15 interceptions, that doesn't sound unbelievable. It doesn't sound unrealistic, and that would probably be better than what they're going to get from Jarrett Stidham. Maybe not. It's definitely not what you get from peak Tom Brady, but I don't think we have now. That remains to be seen.
Yeah. No, I think it's very interesting because, I didn't realize. I mean, if you combine the rushing stats that Cam put up, I don't think he's going to rush. I don't think Cam is going to be quite the runner that he was. I mean, with every mobile quarterback we see, they sort of slow down over time, and it's just too much. It's too hard. But he still is 6'5", 245. So.
And he's basically their goal line back. I think you could pencil him in for 400 yards rushing. I'm just looking at his career numbers. If they use him at all, if he's going to be utilized as a runner, I just don't see how he gets fewer than 400 yards. Just looking at his career, that would be his fewest total yards rushing the ball ever if he was at 400 exactly, and that would still be probably top 3 or 4 in the NFL at the quarterback position. So. I think they're going to be minimizing the amount of times he throws the ball and just trying to have a power football team behind him, their offensive line, Sony Michel, and Damian Harris, and Rex Burkhead, of course, with James White.
I wonder.
And James White, maybe not as good as Christian McCaffrey, but he does have that skill set of being one of the best pass catchers at the running back position. So could be helpful.
Out of the other teams in the NFC East, who do you think is the most upset right now?
You mean AFC East?
AFC, excuse me. Sorry.
Yeah, okay. So I want to make sure. It's definitely the Buffalo Bills because the Buffalo Bills. Let's put it this way: if you're the Dolphins or the Jets, maybe in your wildest dreams you thought you had a chance to win the division. Behind closed doors, you guys are all laughing and joking, having a few drinks, and you drink a few too many, and you say, "Oh yeah, we have a chance to win the AFC East."
Yeah.
But everyone knows that the Buffalo were the only team that had a realistic chance to win the AFC East and actually could be called favorites coming into this season.
Yep.
They're probably still going to be called favorites just because we don't really know what to expect from Cam Newton. But now, instead of having a quarterback that's thrown 4 career passes, you've got a quarterback that's won an MVP award and has something to prove.
I think it's interesting that and this is pretty much the last thing I'll say about this for now because we're up against the clock. We got to take a break. But I think it's interesting to me that Cam Newton being on the Patriots, it sort of almost mirrors the Bills and the Patriots this next season almost mirror each other perfectly because it's a at the position you have a big physically dominant person who is run centric with a big arm and is not the most accurate, throwing to wide receivers that are, let's say, questionable at best, with a running game that is stout and a defense that's going to be the leading force in the locker room. And so sorry, keep going. No, that's it.
No, I was going to say, actually, if you combine them, if you're comparing the teams, now that you have me thinking about it, it is a really close comparison, and you might have to give the edge to the Bills on offense because of Stephon Diggs and Devin Singletary, but give the edge to the Patriots on defense
and coaching
because of Gilmore and of course coaching.
Yeah. I mean, the AFC East just became fascinating. I'm so curious. The other thing too, I guess the other thing to think about is what if Jarrett Stidham actually does outperform Cam Newton in preseason? That's going to be, what is that locker room going to be like? That's going to be like Tim Tebow all over again. It's just going to be chaos.
I don't think it's going to be like that at all. Tim Tebow was a guy who hadn't had a chance to prove anything in the NFL, and people just wanted him to get a chance. Cam Newton's a guy who's had a career with 10 years now, something like that, got cut from another team, was looking like he might not even get back into the NFL this season, and just been thrown a lifeline by the Patriots. I am expecting a quarterback competition to start the season or start the preseason, even if, especially with the Patriots, and we know how hard their playbook is notoriously. So Jarrett Stidham has the advantage of having been there last season. But so I'm expecting an open competition, and the best man's going to win. I would expect that to be Cam Newton, and if it's not Cam Newton, I think that would be a serious blow to his career.
Yeah, no, I would agree, and I think that Cam's probably pretty happy. I mean, Patriots fans are pretty happy, and I think someone else who should be happy with this is probably Colin Kaepernick, because now that Cam's off the market, he takes he steps up to the plate as sort of the next man up. And I was I've said this on weeks prior that I think that the Steelers, if they're smart, they might get one more solid year out of Ben Roethlisberger, and then they have to do something, and they're primed to win. They're a great team from top to bottom, and why not sign? I thought Cam would have been a great backup for Ben as far as skill set is concerned. He could step in basically and be sort of very much like Ben Roethlisberger, and I think Colin Kaepernick could be even better than Ben Roethlisberger, quite honestly. Depending on his injury status, but we can. And
we've seen the value of backup quarterbacks in the NFL the last few seasons, so we don't have to get into that too much. But it's important.
That's for another day. But all right, so coming up next, we are going to talk a little Major League Baseball and NBA, the sports that are actually going to come back for sure. NFL should be coming back.
Hopefully.
Yeah, we'll see. But NBA and then MLB, and we're going to touch on that right after this. And this is the Benchwarmers podcast. We'll be right back.
A social distancing tip.
While the CDC urges you to avoid close contact, like hugging or shaking hands, there are other non-physical ways to say hello. Wave, wink, use sign language, salute, smile, give the peace sign, throw up an air high five, do jazz hands. Remember, stay a minimum of 6 feet or 2 arms length away from others, and stay home if you can. For more info, visit coronavirus.gov.
Let's all do our part, because we're all #AloneTogether. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Welcome back to the Benchwarmers podcast, where being all talk is actually a good thing. Now, back to the action. Or talk, I guess.
Welcome back to the program, everybody. I'm Lou Ruggieri, that's Jose Ortiz, and this is still the Benchwarmers podcast. We appreciate you spending some time with us. You can find us more information about us is the right way to say that, at Facebook. We're on Facebook, the Benchwarmers podcast, on Instagram. We are on Spotify. We are part of the iHeartRadio podcasting lineup. We're on YouTube, kinda. We're working on Twitter. I mean, we have a whole bunch of things in the works. We're trying to vamp up our social media status a little more because neither Jose or myself are very good at it. So hopefully that'll start picking up in the coming weeks. You can also email us if you want, the Benchwarmers podcast at yahoo.com, Benchwarmers with a Z for marketing purposes. So, Jose, the NBA and the Major League Baseball are back. And I want to talk baseball first for a second, just kind of give an overview of anybody that's been stuck in a quarantine bubble for the last, no pun intended, for the last few days. Baseball has officially said they're coming back. It's going to be a 60-game schedule, and there's a couple tweaks to the rules. There's going to be a universal DH, designated hitter, and then there's also going to be, I guess, at the start of extra innings to limit the amount of time, I guess, that players have to, the time the game goes. They will automatically advance a man to second base at the start of the extra innings to kind of help speed up the game. Now, there's a lot of questions here, but just right off the bat, as far as universal DH and this man on second start in extra innings, what's your reaction to that?
I love both rules, and I kind of want them to become the new norm when they go back to 162 games. The runner on second base, I could see that one fading off into the distance. I just like the idea of not having to sit through 19 innings of baseball, just to wait for something to happen. I like that they're starting the action, getting things going. You get a runner on second base, you can use some small ball to score a run. I think it really. I think it's a good change. As far as the universal DH, I've been wanting this for so long. I just looked up some numbers ahead of this our show here. So in 2019, pitchers had almost 5,000 plate appearances. They hit a combined 127 on those 5,000 plate appearances.
Stole my stat.
And struck out 2,230 times. Nobody wants to see a pitcher's hit. It's boring. It looks painful. Like, I'm watching it. It's actually just awkward for me because these are professional athletes. I see pitchers hurt themselves. If I never have to see a pitcher hit again, it would be amazing. And I don't care about the purists and the strategy involved and all that stuff. Put major league hitters at the plate. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, I think. And there's a lot here, I think. And first off, the universal DH, I think, is long overdue. And I hope that baseball, I mean, I know that they're slow moving and they're sort of purists and traditionalists, but really, people want to see bigger, stronger, better hitting guys hit the ball. I mean, why would you not want to add 30 home runs to your team? I mean, come on. And then you're extending hitters' careers. That's even better. So that's 15 more jobs that open up, 16 more jobs. And then the other thing is that pitchers nowadays are the quarterbacks of baseball. I mean, they are irreplaceable. And the last thing you want is someone ambling up to the plate and getting beamed by a pitch, and then they're out for a game or a week or a month or trying to run the bases. I mean, the pitchers don't want to do it. Nobody wants to see the pitchers do it. And they're not very good at it. Like you said, it's a 128 average. I mean, come on. I could do that. So it just seems kind of silly to be putting your highest investment, your biggest investment at risk just for the sake of that's what we've always done. Like that's silly. And I think that that's
always the worst reason to do something. I'm sorry. It's always the worst reason to do something just because that's the way we've always done it. That's a terrible reason. Sorry to keep going.
You're absolutely right. And I think it's just the other thing is the advancing a man to second to start extra innings, I think is interesting for two reasons. Number one, it does, as far as a strategic element goes, I think it adds a lot more to the game because you do you walk the first guy? Do you not walk the first guy? Do you let him go to third? Then you let the bases get, do you have a guy in first and second and go for the double play? Like, there's a lot of things that you can now have to think about. And the strategy there, I think managers can finally start earning their money. And I think that's going to be very interesting. And then finally, the game in the last couple years has been so analytically driven where it's just it's home run or strikeout, home run or strikeout, home run or strikeout. And, strikeouts have been through the roof, record numbers in the last year or so. And home runs have been up across the board. But there's no more, the fun of the game. I mean, movement makes the game fun. I mean, when's the last time you saw somebody try to steal a base? My God, I mean, it's painful. It's like you're either striking out or you're hitting a home run. I mean, home runs are fun, but I don't want to see somebody strike out 200 times a year. I mean, that's painful. And so maybe I'm hoping that this brings advancing a man to second for extra innings starts to bring back that small ball that's been missing, where a sacrifice fly, a bunt, steal a base. I mean, things that are fun to watch that haven't been there for so long. I think it's time. The time is perfect. I think the timing is perfect.
Yeah, especially you bring up a great point about having to be able to bunt. Players are going to have to be able to bunt the ball, runners over. And I think it's also going to raise the importance of having a guy in the back of your bullpen, or a lot of guys in the back of the bullpen, who can strike people out, right? If you come in and there's no one out, and there's a runner on second, and the next run's going to win the game, you've got to get a strikeout. And I think it's going to kind of raise the stakes on having strikeout pitchers at the back of your bullpen ready to go. So
the last question on this is, with a 60-game schedule, so that's less than half of a season. Would you put an asterisk at the conclusion of this season?
Well, I wouldn't put an official asterisk. Like if I was the commissioner, I'm not going to put an asterisk in the record books or anything. But in my mind, yes. In my mind, yes, because it's not comparable to almost any other baseball season in history. I was reading that it's the fewest games played since like 1870 or something like that. Normally you have 162 games. If they were over 100, I could say, all right, it's fine. There's been strike shortened seasons where they've played 100 games, 110 games, something like that. Mm-hmm. 60 games, that's just it. Listen, and I'm going to say an asterisk championship is better than no championship. So someone's got to win the title, and someone should go out and if the Yankees happen to win the championship, I'm going to celebrate that one just like as much as I celebrate any other ones. But if we start getting into a debate about comparing one championship team versus another championship team, it's going to be very difficult to compare the 2020 MLB champions to any other team in history, and for that reason, they'll have a little bit of an asterisk, at least unofficially.
I mean, so here's the thing with this. Initially I would have agreed with you, but given the fact that the Houston Astros have not really been punished and they're able to retain their World Series title from last year, and they were, they're caught cheating. I mean, that is the joke, the Houston asterisks. I mean, that's crazy. And if they're allowed to hold on to their title, I will tell you that I have no problem. Whoever wins is going to be the champion, and I feel like it might be a caveat where someone brings it up, but it's not going to be quite the same as certainly not the same as cheating. And I think that the lack of attrition that the baseball season offers, and the team who has the most depth and survives the longest usually wins out. But
so what I was going to say about it is the other thing, because you just kind of triggered something in my brain. The other thing that adds an asterisk, and first of all, the Astros do have an asterisk. It's not an official one, but it's the same type of asterisk where they won the championship, but everyone knows they were trying to cheat, right? So that's going to follow them as well. But one thing I was thinking about is what's going to put an asterisk on this season, what could have put an asterisk on the NBA championship, is the attrition through coronavirus. It'd be like if you were playing a baseball game, right? Because there's injuries all the time, right? But this is a little bit different. It's like a specter hanging over the whole sport, where there's going to be players that get COVID. There's going to be players that get COVID, and all of a sudden, whether it's Mike Trout or Mookie Betts or whomever, Noah Syndergaard, Jacob deGrom, one of these star players gets coronavirus, has to miss 2 weeks or however long. It's like if there was a bunch of banana peels on the baseball field, and at any point in time, someone could just break their leg, and it was almost a likelihood that someone was going to injure themselves. If you win the championship basically because your team was the last one standing and didn't get hurt by coronavirus as much, I think that will add a little bit. It's not like, because I'm just thinking about the NBA last year with the Raptors winning the championship, and we saw Klay Thompson was injured and Kevin Durant was injured. And people kind of question the legitimacy of that championship. But I feel like those injuries happen within the course of playing the game. It's just something that happens, right? Guys get injured.
Right.
Coronavirus is different. It's like a ever-present menace that's just waiting. And I think it's going to potentially, I hope it doesn't, but it could devolve this into just a game of attrition as far as who doesn't get coronavirus and who does.
So I think, and we're going to transition to the NBA in just a second, but the last thing I'll say is this, is that it's the same thing I'm going to say for the NBA. Everyone in MLB is starting off on the same foot. No one has a competitive advantage. Everyone is starting off, and for first time ever, really, I mean, baseball is going to be a sprint, not a marathon. And I will tell you this, if I was a fan or a team member of the Tigers, of the Indians, of the Mets, you don't think that the Twins, my God, if my team won, it's a championship. It's a World Series. I don't care if it was a 3-game season.
No, it's definitely a championship. You definitely take the championship. It's just not going to. I don't think, if you're a Yankees fan or let's say you're a Red Sox fan, if you're a fan of a team that's used to winning championships, this is not going to feel the same as the other championships. Now, if you're like the Mets, like the Twins that haven't won, or like the Blue Jays that haven't won in a while, or ever, well, in a while, I should say.
Yeah.
Then it's going to feel like, this is amazing. Who cares? I don't care if it was a 5-game season, like you said. The one last thing I want to add on this is just, so with the coronavirus restrictions, there's not going to be a lot of there's a lot of stuff there. There's going to be a lot of stuff they're not allowed to do. And one of the things, there's not going to be a home run celebrations at the plate, which I really think is going to take away from some of the excitement of the game. Watching the guy, I remember you and I were talking a couple of weeks ago, and I was saying a home run might be the most exciting play in sports, right? Because you hit the ball, everyone stops, you're watching the ball travel as far as it goes. The player takes his time running around the bases. Everyone's cheering. The pitcher's upset. The teammates are waiting for them at the plate to mob him. And now that's going to be gone. And baseball's already lost a lot of the opportunity to win newer fans by how long they took to get this going. So this is not going to help them. Not having that built-in excitement in the game that kind of stands still a lot of the time. They need exciting moments like home runs, and it's going to be muted a little bit. And so I think that might be a negative.
Yeah, I think the game, the 60-game schedule is going to be one of two things. If you're a fan of the team that wins, you're going to say, I don't care, my team won, so we're the best. If you are a Red Sox fan and the Yankees win, or a Yankees fan and the Red Sox win, the first thing you're going to say whenever someone starts bragging is, but that was a 60-game. Come on, that wasn't a real season. So, I mean, and that's part of sports. It's just what it is. Every time a team that you don't like wins, you find a reason to knock them down a peg because you're angry about it. I mean, that's just that's sporting nature. That's what it is.
That's just the way it is.
As far as not having anybody in terms of in the stands, I think it is gonna. Hopefully, they have piped in music or fans or fake noise or something, because baseball. Watching baseball is tough enough sometimes, but watching baseball with no atmosphere whatsoever is going to be just mind-numbing.
And they're a sport that's desperate for new fans. That's really that's the main thing I'm thinking about. All the diehards are going to come back and watch baseball. Anyone who is waiting for baseball season is going to come back and watch. What they've missed out on is getting those casual fans who were just sitting around the house with nothing to do, and now they've kind of missed the window on that. And I think the lack of the excitement and energy of a regular baseball game is going to hurt that as well.
And also, the Houston Astros lucked out in a major way, because they were basically going to go on a booing tour throughout the country and get just assaulted with insults from fans for cheating. And I mean, truthfully, they're probably still going to get beamed a few times from opposing pitchers, especially from teams who thought they got jobbed with their cheating. But they definitely kind of dodged a bullet on that one, I think. But in any event, we have to move on. So this is the Benchwarmers podcast. I'm Lou. That's Jose. You can find us on Spotify. You can find us on YouTube. We are on the iHeartRadio podcasting lineup, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, anywhere, everywhere. That's us. But speaking of asterisks, another big problem that has been sort of weirdly talked about, and I kind of want to flip this a little bit, and you sort of touched on it earlier. As far as the NBA, I keep hearing pundits and talk show hosts talk about how they're always arguing these like theoretical people that are saying that the NBA is going to have the NBA champion this year is going to have an asterisk attached to it, and they're always arguing against that. I've not heard anybody argue that there should be an asterisk to the season. I don't think anyone of rational mind really thinks that that's the case. They played, they're going to miss a total of maybe 8 regular season games. Everybody's starting off. There's no home court. In fact, it should be even harder for the team that wins because the best teams aren't getting home court advantage. Excuse me. But here's the question for you, and this is you sort of stumbled on it before, and I'm glad that you didn't go too far because then it would have ruined my question for you. But an asterisk, I think that I would attribute to this season, and I want to know if you agree with me. If, let's say, it's the NBA Finals, and sort of like you mentioned with Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson last year in the Finals, and Kawhi Leonard sort of got his ring, but it was questionable. If the NBA Finals are about to start, and let's say it's the Lakers and the Bucks, and if either LeBron or Giannis ends up getting the coronavirus and is sidelined for the entire length of that final series, I'm going to put an asterisk on the season.
Yeah, that's the only thing that can put an asterisk on the season. Even it doesn't even have to happen in the finals. If in the Western Conference Finals, it's the LA Clippers against the LA Lakers and Kawhi Leonard comes down with coronavirus, that's gonna. I mean, you already have players opting out. The Lakers' Avery Bradley opted out, and he's going to stay home. He's not going to return for the season. They're probably going to resign. They're going to sign J.R. Smith, which I don't know how he ends up getting contracts in the NBA. But
I'd rather have nobody.
Well, I mean, Avery Bradley is a good defensive player at least, right? Like, he at least brings defense, and that's really what he was there for as a ball stopper. But that's besides the point. So yeah, no, there would definitely be an asterisk. I mean, once again, though, it's hard to say that though because you just outlined it. We're all starting from ground zero. We're all starting healthy camp. No one's got coronavirus. If I'm LeBron James, if I'm Kawhi Leonard, Giannis, Paul George, James Harden, fill in the blanks, I'm locking myself in an underground bunker where literally no one can come in. It's just I want so little contact with. I'm going to be extra careful because that is what you don't want to happen. Game 2, you're about to play. Oh, I have coronavirus. I'm out for 2 weeks minimum. Now, my teammates and the people I've played against, now they have to be tested, and they might be out for 2 weeks. That would be a disaster. And it's actually. Yeah, I don't want to jump ahead, but it's been something that's been on my mind a little bit. Mm-hmm. With all the sports coming back, I'm getting very excited, but I'm also getting worried. NBA, I don't know if you saw this, 15 players tested positive for coronavirus, which is a 5% rate among all the players in the NBA. We've already seen Novak Djokovic in tennis get coronavirus. Last week we talked about Ezekiel Elliott getting coronavirus. This is a serious thing, and I'm not coming at this politically. I just want sports. And I'm looking around the world. They have Bundesliga. They have their soccer. They're playing Korea has been playing baseball for a month now. Yep. Sports are back in Europe and Asia. We're the only country, one of the only countries that don't have our sports back because we haven't been able to get our acts together with coronavirus as a country. And I'm not a person I don't enjoy staying in the house. I don't enjoy wearing a mask. I don't enjoy socially distancing. But I want my sports back. And if coronavirus cases keep going up, I'm really starting to get worried that we're not going to have a season, or we're going to have abomination of a season that we're not even going to be able to count as a real season. So please, if you're not taking this seriously, please wear a mask. Please, for the love of sports, just socially distance, wear a mask. We need our numbers to go down. We need football. We need baseball basketball. In order for that to happen, we need our coronavirus cases to go down. And that's all I'm going to say on that. I don't want to get overly political, but it's just something that's been really bothering me a lot.
This public service announcement brought to you by Jose Ortiz of the Benchwarmerz podcast. Well said. I agree with everything you said. I think that it's scary. And, we saw Avery Bradley, he opted out, and I don't blame him. He has a child who has, is prone to, I think, some kind of asthma, some kind of respiratory sickness, and I don't blame him. I mean, it stinks if you're a Lakers fan, but I mean, you can't hold it against the guy. It's not like he's saying like, I don't really want to just hang out in a bubble for 3 months. He's staying out for family reasons, and that's more important than a basketball. But finally, we're going to move on. But the last piece of NBA news that I wanted to touch on is that Vince Carter has announced his retirement after 22 seasons in the NBA, and I don't think I realized, what is he, 42 years old now? Vince Carter, I didn't realize how long he's been around. Vince Carter. Vince Carter's actually been in the NBA longer than he hasn't been in the NBA. Just think about it. Just some retrospective on Vince Carter. I mean, the only things that really come to mind are obviously his slam dunk contest win. I think that was 2000 that happened. And just the athleticism that he had was unparalleled. I mean, I think aside from maybe Dr. J, I think Vince Carter was the most prolific leaper, if you want to say, if that's a word, in the NBA for so long. And I mean, Jordan, obviously Michael Jordan was better and all around, but as far as athleticism, I think Vince Carter could have been even better than Jordan. The problem is that Vince never won a title, and I feel like that sort of diminishes his legacy severely.
I agree with everything, but before I jump into Vince Carter, I just want to give you a chance to take a victory lap. Maybe you didn't notice this, and I thought you were going to gloat, but this is the type of person that you are, that you're not a gloater like that. So did you see the first 2 games on the NBA season?
I did not, actually. I've not seen them yet.
Well, the first 2 games, the Jazz versus the Pelicans. What did you say about the NBA wanting to get Zion front and center?
Yeah.
The first game back from this hiatus.
Yep.
We're going to see Zion Williamson. And the second game is going to be LeBron versus Kawhi and the Lakers and Clippers. So these are nationally televised games. I saw that, and I wanted to give you a shout-out, say that you were right on the money about this about a month ago, and I doubted it, and you didn't take the victory lap. I'm taking it for you. Great job. Now,
what I'll say about that is, I guess I'm not going to say I told you so, but the truth of the matter is, if you look at it, I mean, this was sort of my perspective on that whole idea is, right now, LeBron is the face of the league, but he's almost done. He's on his way out. I mean, he's in the twilight of his career. And if over the course of the last, 30 years, I mean, if you look at the people that have been sort of the faces of the NBA, Magic, Larry, Michael, we had Kobe for a while, Shaq, and then it turned to LeBron. The guys, it's not always the best players that are the faces. You kind of have to have a little bit of charisma. You have to have a little bit of an attitude. You have to be a little arrogant, but not too arrogant. You have to have a sense of humor. You kind of have to be relatable in some fashion, or just be gregarious enough where you just are magnetic. And, Giannis is great, and he could be good as far as the face of the league, but he's not a native. He's not a born here, so that sort of skews a little bit. And he's all ball. I mean, Kawhi Leonard has said 3 words in about 12 years. He hasn't said. We don't hear anything from Kawhi Leonard. James Harden is a little polarizing, and he can't be the face of the league because he hasn't won a championship. So we don't look at him as the leader in the clubhouse.
He's also kind of ugly, but I don't look at him. That's fine.
Russell Westbrook is a little evasive and wears frameless or lensless glasses in post-game conferences. So, and he gets in fights with fans. I mean, that's cool if you're Michael Jordan and the Knicks, but that doesn't really fly when it's Utah. Yeah. Damian Lillard isn't too small of a market. So what does that leave? Look at what this guy did for Duke basketball. And Zion is in Duke. I mean, he took an already good, top-selling franchise and made it. I mean, he was must-see TV. I mean, I think Duke had 33 games or something, 30-plus games on primetime television in Zion's 1 year. And so he's all of those things. You know, he's a enigma because we can't quite fit him into a comparable, parallel sort of comp player. But he's got sort of like what we're about to talk about, Vince Carter. I mean, he's got Vince Carter like agility for somebody who is bigger than Charles Barkley. I mean, he's this, and then he's just got this great smile. You know, he seems like he looks like he's having fun, and he's young. He got 1 million views on YouTube in high school. So I mean, people are just drawn to, and the name too. I mean, he's got the name.
I was just about to say the name. The name is really, I think it's so unique. You know? It's that's what you want with a lot of these guys. When I say the first name, Shaq, it's Kobe, it's Michael, it's Magic, it's Larry, it's Isaiah. You can say one name and know exactly who you're talking about.
And
I think that's really important.
He is the first Zion, and I think that's sort of apropos for his playing style because we've never seen it before.
Yeah. So just sorry to take us off track there. I just wanted to give you credit where credit was due.
I appreciate it.
But as far as Vince Carter.
Transition
Vince
back
Carter
to athletic, from new athletic to old athletic. Vince Carter, again, was
AKA half man, half amazing. In case you forgot his nickname there.
That's right.
So I just went through some of his, just in case people weren't aware. 8-time All-Star, 19th overall in scoring all time, first player to play in 4 different decades, and I think what hurt is he was overshadowed by. He played, in an era where he was kind of overshadowed by the likes of. He was in the league when Jordan was there. He was in with Kobe, Allen Iverson, LeBron James. He was always in the discussion for best player in the game, but never near the top. And I hurt him. But the other thing that hurts him seriously is when you look at his end of the career numbers, 16.7 points per game. That's not anything special.
Yeah.
The problem is he hung around too long. He through the first 13 seasons, he averaged 22 points per game. I looked it up. That would have ranked him 35th all time as far as all time points per game leaders, and that would have basically anyone on that list, 35 or higher, who's not retired or who's not active, is in the Hall of Fame or is going to the Hall of Fame. So he would have been a lock, shoe-in Hall of Famer had he retired then. But he played for like 8 more years. And after that, he's averaging 5 points a game, 7 points a game, 8 points a game, 6. But these terrible scoring numbers really watered down his career averages. And he was primarily a scorer. So when you're primarily a scorer and you're going to water down your average numbers, and you don't have a championship, you've never even played in the NBA Finals, only reached the conference finals once. He doesn't have that championship feel. He doesn't have that feel of a guy where, hey, there's 5 minutes left in the game, we're down by 10, give me the ball and get out of the way. He doesn't have that feel, and so he's a great player. I've actually done a little exercise here. Without looking at any numbers, I'm going to mention some guys, and you tell me if you'd rather have Vince Carter or you'd rather have this player. All right?
Okay. Sure.
Reggie Miller.
I would take Reggie.
Okay, I would too. Allen Iverson.
I would take Allen Iverson.
Me too. Ray Allen.
Ray Allen. Oof. Yeah, I would take Ray Allen.
Me too. Dwayne Wade.
That's actually an interesting comp. I guess I would take Dwayne Wade.
Yep, me too. I'm naming the ones where it's like, so Jerry West.
I feel like I can't answer that because I never saw Jerry West play. I feel like that's not a fair.
I agree with you. That's
comparison.
Fair.
I don't know.
Okay. Let's move down. What about Tracy McGrady?
Vince Carter, for sure.
Yep. Okay. Paul George.
Vince Carter, definitely.
Agreed. James Harden.
I would take Harden begrudgingly.
You have to take Harden. Yeah, I think that these next 3 are going to be the toughest ones. Klay Thompson.
If I'm starting a team, I would take Klay. Klay might be the best spot-up shooter. He's definitely one of the best spot-up shooters we've ever seen. He might be the best when it's all said and done. I would take Clay as a weapon.
We don't. I think I would take Clay too. I'm not 100%. The one thing we don't know about Clay is how well he does when he's the number one option on the team. But I think I would take Clay. What about Joe Dumars?
Joe Dumars? I'd probably go Vince Carter.
Yeah, me too. And last one, Manu Ginobili.
I would go Vince Carter.
Me too as well. So, like, what I've noticed from this list is basically if you're in that upper echelon shooting guard, you're taking that player over Vince Carter.
Yep.
You really don't. So that means to me that Vince Carter's not a Hall of Famer. He's a very good player, not a Hall of Famer though.
I would disagree with that. Just some numbers, just his career by numbers, really quickly. Just some accolades Vince Carter has amassed over his 22 season career. He was an 8-time NBA All-Star, All-NBA second team, All-NBA third team, a year each. He was the NBA Rookie of the Year, All-Rookie first team, and the Slam Dunk champion in 2000. And he won a gold medal in 2000 also.
Yeah, that's true.
Those are Hall of Fame numbers. And keep in mind, and I say this every time. The thing with the Hall of Fame, it's the Hall of Fame. I mean, Vince Carter is famous for his incredible dunking ability. And actually, what goes on under the radar is that, did you know Vince Carter is 6th all time in 3-point shooting?
I did not know that.
Yeah,
but I mean, he's 22 seasons. I mean,
sure, but he still had to make the shots.
He can compile the lot. He still has to make the shots. You know, listen, he might be a Hall of Famer. The way I judge a Hall of Famer initially is, when I say his name, do I think he was one of the best players of his era? And I don't know if I could say that of Vince Carter, a guy who went to the conference finals one time in the sport where it's the most tied to individual ability, because you play offense and defense, and you play, you play so many minutes. I don't know.
Put him in the same level as like Chris Webber, where it's like he was just born at the wrong time.
Okay.
He just got hurt. I mean, he missed basically most of Michael Jordan's prime. But then, he got stuck with the Shaq and Kobe Lakers, and then LeBron came in, and then the Spurs were just crushing people.
Yeah.
And and the Warriors. I mean, that's a rough go of it.
Yeah.
Where you're only overshadowed by just these generational transcendent players. So.
I think that is probably his biggest crime. He was overshadowed by a lot of transcendent players, and I don't know if he's transcendent. And I guess that's maybe his biggest crime, not being a transcendent player.
Well, we'll see in a couple of years if he gets voted in. He would get my vote for sure. But all right, so Jose, that'll do it for hour number 1 of the Benchwarmerz podcast. We are up against a break, so coming up next in hour number 2, we're going all NFL because honestly, let's face it, it's the most fun to talk about. We have some Dak discussions, so that's going to cause some controversy for sure because, even though I have rooted for the Cowboys, I'm not rooting for Dak. I mean, I am, but I'm not, and we'll get into that. And then he managed to sign a contract, and then there's some contract problems with a Mr. Jamal Adams of the Jets. So we'll talk about that and some more. Stick around. This has been hour 1 of the Benchwarmers podcast. We'll see you next hour.
Thanks for listening to the Benchwarmers Podcast. Follow along with us on the Benchwarmers Podcast on Facebook and Instagram. And don't forget to review us on iTunes, Google Play, or wherever you get your podcasts.